Morning. Hope everyone had a good week here in Vegas. I want to start off with a few introductions of our panel here. Myself, Larry Aldrich, President, CEO of Brentsis Technology LLC and Aqua Marketing and Communications. I mentioned Brentsis because it's another brand that we have. Brentsis focuses on marketing to the federal government and states. We currently have a few agencies to include the VA, Bureau of Land Management, and SBA, to include a few others on the federal side. We also work with the state of Delaware doing marketing. With Brentsis, I started 15 years ago. Brentsis has been a growing brand. Then we acquired Aqua, and we started to do a lot more in the tourism, destination, and hospitality marketing. Next, I want to introduce Rachel.
Hi, good morning. My name is Rachel Covello. I am the owner, founder of OutCoast. OutCoast focuses on creating content, strategizing with DMOs and agencies like Larry's on making sure people are reaching more marginalized voices in their marketing. We definitely are a heavy focus in the LGBTQ space, but as we move forward, we're leaning a lot more into neurodivergent spaces, accessibility, plus size, travel, et cetera. So really trying to broaden that inclusion spectrum. That's pretty much my main role. I do other things, we'll talk after.
Hey everybody, my name is Maria Skrzynski. I am the content strategist at Destination Ann Arbor in Michigan. I'm also a queer professional and I am a community advocate where I live in Ypsilanti. It's one of our 7 communities that we represent at Destination Ann Arbor, so I'll be referencing that a little bit later today. I've also been with the organization for 6.5 years, but in this role as content strategist for the past year. We had a lot of shift role changes at Destination Ann Arbor, which really helped us kind of reevaluate what we're doing in the space and really dive in deep. So I'm really excited to have an honest conversation, both providing my personal insight as well as what our organization is up to.
Hi everyone, good morning. My name is Daniel and I'm with Visit Oxnard. I am the Digital and Multicultural Marketing Manager. I've been with the organization for about 3 years now. I didn't originally start in the multicultural role. This role was created during my time there. I've been there for 3 years. About 1.5 years in was when the role was created because it was needed and I was there and able to address more of the cultural needs. Oxnard is about 60 miles north of Los Angeles, so we are on the California coast. We are a beach destination, and we're very culturally rich with a lot of cultural heritage and as well as a lot of festivals. We have multicultural festivals, a big Hispanic population, so we have Dia de los Muertos Festival, which is the Day of the Dead Festival. We celebrate AAPI Month, the Asian American Pacific Islander Month, as well as Juneteenth. So a lot of things happening in Oxnard. So excited to share everything that I can with all of you today.
Thank you. This will be a great conversation. Rachel and I have had this quite a few times. We have a podcast, Aqua Talks, and Rachel was my very first guest. So we've had these conversations quite a few times, so it'll be interesting and enjoyable having it with everyone else. But let's jump into authentic representation. Authenticity is a buzzword in DI marketing, but does it really actually look like in practice? How do you define and measure authenticity in your campaign?
For us at Destination Ann Arbor, and really what I think about when I just close my eyes and think of the word authentic, I'm thinking about a really true experience and true to your destination. So somebody had brought up, we hear authentic when we talk about food and very specific things, but what does that mean for your destination if that's not total immersion for you? So I'm thinking about true experience to your destination, and what that looks like in practice or how we measure that is I thought about influencers and creators that come to our destination, and as Astrid from Puerto Rico said yesterday, these folks have really built a trusted relationship with their followers already. So you know, for example, we brought an influencer who we met at a similar conference like this. It's called WITS. Has anyone ever heard of WITS? It's a it's a conference where social media professionals can also connect with influencers and creators. So we met Caterina, Blindish Latina, who is a partial deaf-blind traveler. And she came to experience our Ann Arbor area. And one of the other key things that we like to keep in mind is flexibility. We don't have to make a step-by-step itinerary for these travelers. If they want that, we're happy to help that, but we also want to provide flexibility to provide that really true, authentic experience of our destination. So we measure that by not a number, more the sentiment. What are their travelers saying? Are they excited to visit the destination after they highlight it? What is the impact? Are people planning after that? We haven't really been able to measure that as a number yet, but we're hoping to really build that out now.
Yeah, and to kind of go off of that, when we think of authentic marketing, we hear that word so often that sometimes we're a little terrified that it's going to lose its meaning. Authentic food, authentic representation. But when I think about authenticity, it's about being real. And at Visit Oxnard, we like to use the term inclusive marketing. And that's pretty much including a lot of our business partners and our community members in our marketing, because each one of them is what makes Oxnard the great diversity to visit, and it has a lot of cultural events, as I mentioned before, and with all of that, making sure that they're accurately being represented, and not just a post. It's not something that's very seasonal. So I think that's very important. And for us to measure it, we love the numbers. We love it when things go viral. We love those big numbers to report back to our board. But it's more than just the numbers. The way we measure it, we kind of do more the emotional connection to it with the post. What are people saying about it? What are the comments looking like? Are people in the community happy with the representation that we're showing on our social media? So it's really important to listen and make sure that we're not just doing a post or putting something on our website just to have it there and be pretty and check off a box. It's being real and accurate and honoring and celebrating it. So that emotional connection, are people seeing themselves represented in these posts? And these community members at these festivals, so for example, Day of the Dead festivals, and it's more than just, skulls and sugar and a bunch of flowers. There's a whole story behind it, and making sure that we're honoring it and actually highlighting it, and having the community being proud of the work that we're putting out there, because at the end of the day, it is a representation of Oxnard and the community and of who we are and what we represent. So that's very important for us.
On this side, as someone who does content creation, I have a travel blog. We do video campaigns with destinations. I think I've also pivoted how I've done things over the years. When I started, we were big on doing, the typical, stereotypical LGBTQ travel blogs. And that usually incorporates a pride event or gay things to do or, gay clubs, the drinking, the parties. That's kind of like what we get stereotyped as. And it got old. And I realized that those aren't the spaces that I really personally, as a traveler, would be going if I were choosing where I was traveling. And so I started getting real with, I also live in Florida. I live in St. Pete, amazing destination for inclusion. I think Eddie already left, but I am very blessed to live in a destination I'm also proud to promote. But we live in Florida. Florida is a different world right now. We definitely get a lot of things in the news. I was very involved with the conversations last year with Visit Florida, removing LGBT content. And so when we're dealing with these things, authenticity changes, the meaning of that changes. Understanding who you're marketing to, the demographics, the fears, the real fears that we're living with every day. Like when you're now trying to reach us in your marketing and you're doing more of a surface pride event video or something like that, I suggest strongly that start talking to your locals. How are your locals feeling? What are the emotions that are going through? Because I guarantee a lot of us are also now dealing with other layers. Part of the reason that I'm getting more into neurodivergency in travel and these other things is my struggle as a traveler is honestly more rooted in anxiety than my LGBTQ identity. And I guarantee you there's a lot more mental health stuff going on right now in some of the marginalized communities. So trying to reach them on a deeper connection in a deeper way, talking about wellness things, talking about places they can disconnect or find safety and belonging in your destinations, doing interviews and content with your locals versus just bringing in the outside influencers that'll look like a beautiful, promotional campaign. They don't work the same all the time with marginalized communities. So thinking a little outside of the box and And also using those micro influencers too. And I think you probably have a question coming about influencers, so I don't want to share too much yet.
Actually,
You wanna-
I was going to go somewhere where you and I have been before. I know we've talked about this. Moving beyond tokenism, long-term commitment. Many destinations launch a one-off DEI campaign but struggle to maintain momentum. How do you ensure inclusivity becomes part of your long-term strategy and not just a trend?
Visit Oxnard, inclusivity and diversity is part of our brand DNA. It's actually part of our brand values to make sure that our marketing is diversity, includes diversity, it's inclusive, and it's representative of our city. So what that Visit Oxnard has that platform. We have, the website, we have the followers, we have all this beautiful things, and we have a platform. But with that, we have the microphone. So with that, it becomes really important to share the microphone with all our community members, because they're the ones that can speak true to their experiences, to their culture. And this is an ongoing relationship that we have. So it's not just highlighting the Hispanic businesses during Hispanic Heritage Month or the Asian businesses during AAPI Month. It's more than just a month, a week, a day. It's a year-long thing. We want to make sure that they're included in all of it. So it's not just seasonal. It's an ongoing relationship with them. And what's helped us at Visit Oxnard is showing up to these festivals, showing up to these events that are put on by the community, and meeting the event organizers and making sure that they know who we are and that we see them and that we want to partner with them. Because I think a big part with these smaller communities is that they don't really know where to look, they don't really know where to start, and they don't really understand the resources. And I think the biggest thing with DMOs is that they're just worried that it's going to cost them something, but we're a free resource to them. And I think it's important for us to know that, hey, we're here for you. You're part of our community. We want you included in that, not just for now, but in an ongoing thing. And then you build that trust, and it kind of goes on. It's not just seasonal. It's ongoing. And I think that's really, really important.
And I'll just quickly add to that when you do show up, it's really cool to see who you're going to meet there and to experience these events or festivals yourself, to really just have that much more knowledge when you are sharing that experience from your destination. But for us, I'll just add really quickly that this is very much a work in progress for us. As I mentioned, we really started diving in, like we had the general pages, but we really started diving in this past year. So it takes time, it takes learning information and finding what works best for your organization, but still being okay with saying that we're not there yet. It's a continuous work in progress. There is no end date.
And as a creator, being tokenized happens more times than I can count. June is my busiest month. It's the month that I get calls to show up at an event. It's the month that the earned media is out in full. We do mostly paid media, but we do some earned depending on what the project is. But it's always the month that people are like, oh, come stay at our hotel and experience this and write an article for us. And we don't get much out of that. It's really more of what the destination's getting, and it's like checking their box. I am queer 365 days a year, 366 days on leap year. Once in a while I take off on a Friday because being gay is exhausting right now. I don't really, guys. But it's part of who I am. I struggle with anxiety 365 days a year. I have ADHD 365 days a year. I've been different sizes throughout my life. I lean a lot into like the body positivity right now because I've been almost 300 pounds. I'm not that anymore. So really fully understanding people on different levels and realizing that we're that way every day of the year, and doing campaigns that way, because tokenizing is really very common in lots of these different spaces that I'm talking about. I'm sure too in the cultural spaces as well.
Okay. Speaking of influencers.
And Larry is black 365 days a year, I think.
Most
Go ahead.
Most of the time, pretty much. Speaking of influencers, how do you work with local creators, influencers, and businesses, and partner with community-led events like, I'm gonna screw this up, but just deal with me. Dia de los Muertos. Did I say that?
Muertos, really close, but yes.
Okay. Or LGBTQ plus pride, to ensure marketing remains authentic and avoids commodification. Somebody pulled the dictionary out on me on that one, but okay. So if you can answer that question, please.
Yeah, I'll start with the pride stuff. So DMOs can have some of the biggest impact in hotels. Anyone in the tourism space can have such a huge impact on the inclusive experience for travelers and locals. Lean on your locals, reach out to local LGBTQ organizations or Hispanic organizations or accessibility organizations, whatever you're really trying to do better at. Lean on reaching out to them and asking them. Offer to compensate them for their time so they're not just getting like, you know, giving you free advice and not getting compensated for all of the years of studies and work that they've done to get to where they are. I get the whole, I'd like to like buy you coffee and bend your ear, or, you know, what's the saying where you like get into your brain, right? Well, that took a lot of work and a lot of money to get what I have in my brain. So, but definitely lean on those local organizations. Volunteer, get your teams involved in some of these organizations to really get to know the community that you are selling to or you're trying to reach. Making assumptions about how to reach us. I don't always want to see a rainbow flag. I actually prefer the color hot pink. So, you know, learning more about individuals, and we're all different. The assumptions really need to be kind of pushed aside.
Yeah, and one of our core values at Destination Ann Arbor, which we reviewed recently and re-identified, is to be a community connector. And when I think about our events like Ipsy Pride, or really any major event that we have going on, I like to take a page out of a customer service handbook and ask, how can we help really promote what it is that you have going on in the way that you would like? And that could be something as simple as asking for visual assets that really represent it, because maybe we only have something from 2017 and the landscape has changed. And it's also, if there's a different way that they'd like the wording to be promoted, or just working together to create a guide, or just, you know, we can Google it. We've been to the event before. We could just talk about it from my own personal voice. But that doesn't reach everybody, so it really does matter that we're working with them to build out meaningful and thoughtful content.
I agree with both of those points. It's very important, and also for us at Visit Oxnard, it's about listening to our community and seeing what it is, who they are, and making sure that we also have our eyes on the local influencers, because as much as we want to work with these big influencers that have a huge following, because then it boosts and it brings more traffic to our web pages, we can't ignore our local creators, because they're the ones who can speak, you know, best to these events and best to the experiences. And then from there, a lot of these local influencers, they're at the events, so they're already there. The community knows them. They're there time and time again, year after year, so they're very well known and well established. So it's very important that we're not going into these events bringing in an outside influencer just to kind of do an outside perspective when it's more of a cultural thing, just because it's more about an understanding. So if you can, lean into those local influencers. And even at Visit Oxnard, we want to make sure that they're represented in our marketing. So we pull them into our campaigns. We have an Oxnard taco trail, and we did a taco story to promote the taco trail of all the different taco places in Oxnard. So if you haven't seen it, please check it out. It's pretty fun. But it's really big on tacos in Mexican regions. But also in that video, we also leaned a little bit into the car culture, because sometimes the car culture can get a little scary for people because they just don't understand it, but it's like classic cars and vintage cars. So you see that, and it's in our marketing, and they're community members, they're community car clubs. And also, to Rachel's point, compensating them, because they are taking time out of their day, they're providing their resources and their talents with us. So making sure that they're also, you know, being compensated for their time, and that we get to use them, and it creates a better partnership and trust between all of us.
And I want to add one more thing. You know, we are in a very, I don't want to get into politics up here. It's hard to avoid right now. I think it's also really important to pay, whatever side of politics you're on, I think it's really important to pay attention to what's happening. Watch the news on all sides, because what's happening in the news is directly affecting some of the communities that we're up here representing, whether it's LGBTQ or Hispanic, or there are genuine like concerns in these communities. So making sure you understand that and making sure you reach out to these organizations as also a friend. I start with friendship first before you're looking at the marketing angle, and say, how can I support you? We have a situation in Florida where we have a couple of destinations, one in particular, who completely erased all of their, I'm not talking about the state level, I'm talking about like a destination. They erased all of their diversity marketing from their DMO. And the Pride organization in that area is also struggling because the local government is going after them to remove drag shows and all sorts of stuff in this local destination. I won't call out the destination, but what I've noticed is the marketing agency that works with this destination, they're trying to get creative to still support Pride, do other things. The local hotels that benefit from diverse travelers are reaching out and working locally with working with the Pride organizations. But I'm gonna ask you guys to just, I know it's hard, try to have a backbone. We need people with backbones to speak up and stand firm and push back. And I'm trying not to get emotional, but please do not give in to the pressure. We cannot do that right now. Sorry.
No problem with me. Maria, Daniel, how do you ensure inclusivity is reflected in both internal staff training policies as well as actual visitor experience?
So at Visit Oxnard, we are a very small team. We're a team of 4 people. So with that being said, we don't really have official workshops or training about diversity and inclusivity, but we have created a culture where open dialogue is appreciated and very welcomed. So let's have a conversation. If we're in a team meeting and there's an event happening and we don't understand about it, we will talk about it. I'm usually a little bit more well-informed with it. So I can speak a lot to the Hispanic side because I am Mexican American. So when those questions come up with Dia de los Muertos, which is the Day of the Dead, I can speak to that and we can talk about it. It's not just, a pretty picture, but I want them to understand. So we have this open dialogue in our team to really listen and ask questions honestly, because I think that's one thing that we can be afraid of, is to ask questions because we're afraid to offend someone. But I think if you come from a place of wanting to understand, that's totally fine. So that's kind of how we have an open dialogue at Visit Oxnard. And externally, for our front-facing channels to the consumers, we try to explain and do things through storytelling. So really highlighting the event, capturing their attention, but then taking them a little bit deeper and going into the meaning and highlighting some of the businesses and the history behind it and why it's there and some of the significance behind it, whether it's for AAPI or even Juneteenth or these multicultural festivals that we have in our city. So so just very much all of that.
Yeah, I would similarly agree with you as far as the dialogue. We don't have any policies or requirements that mandatory training of any kind. We still have work to do in that space. But it brings me back to one of the 2 sayings I always remind myself of. And I also agree, we're talking, we're having dialogue, and sometimes I feel that I am overly sensitive or I'm thinking about this too much, that maybe I shouldn't bring this up because it's just me. But that is not what I say. I say that if I'm feeling a certain way about this, it's possible that somebody else will see this the same way as well. So that empowers me to bring up a concern. And just like maybe an off-color comment that happens in a video you're about to publish. That might I might hear it a certain way, so I want to bring that up to my team for consideration to review. It's not me telling them to take it out, it's just more like, let's review this together as a team. And then externally, what I was thinking about for this is how trusted sources outside also recognize our destination. For example, the Human Rights Campaign Municipality Index rates Ann Arbor to be 100% on a queer-friendly place to work. Another one is that Travelability has highlighted and shared our accessibility content, really highlighting us as like a leading destination that is working towards what we'd like to see in this space. So again, it's not complete. There's no end date, but the fact that it's being recognized, those trusted sources really help our visitors understand that we are a welcoming destination.
How do you handle pushback and backlash for promoting inclusivity? And can you share an example of how you turned a challenge into an opportunity?
Yeah, I can go. I can take this first one. So, of course, it's really impossible to avoid all the negative backlash. I feel like when social media, it's very easy to receive negative backlash because it's easier just to leave a comment and just leave it as is. But we try to lead with empathy and explain and try to educate and just inform people, because a lot of it is from misunderstanding. So whether it's on a comment or we get an email or a phone call, we really try to understand where they're coming from and then try to fill in the blanks and let them know the reasons as to why things are the way they are represented. One of the examples that I can give is we actually have a beach park called Oxnard Beach Park. And a couple of years ago, it changed the name. They changed the name to Olakoi Beach Park. And that was a group of community members and American Indians, so the tribe is the Chumash, and they wanted to change Oxnard Beach Park to represent that community. So Olakoi Beach Park is the new beach, and Olakoi is the dolphin, it means dolphin in Chumash. So there was just that change. It was a process for it to change, went through city council, got approved, so it went through all the official capacities that it should have been. So it was just to honor and just to have that community be represented in our city, because they have a really big history in the city of Oxnard. And once we posted it, there was a lot of people that were very upset. It's a name change. I understand that some people get upset because it's something that's been, Oxnard Beach Park, it's been there for years, and they get really like tied to it. It's like a sense of ownership, but at the same time, the name change came from some community members, and they were really upset. So we took the approach of letting them know as the reason why it was changed, to honor this community that we have here, the Chumash. And it wasn't just taken lightly, and Oxnard Beach Park is now Olakoi Beach Park. And of course, we got the comments where it's like, well, how do you spell it? How do you say it? So we also made sure that we kind of let them know, well, this is kind of how you say it, and we led them to the resources. And after that, things kind of, dwindled down, and people embraced it and accepted it, but it did take some time.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing dealing with backlash right now, obviously our demographic would get it all the time. There are bots created just to find our pages to comment on our social media pages. Have a plan first. So bring in an expert to work with you on like a crisis communication plan is always my biggest tip to deal with these types of things, because you will get backlash. Like, there's no question you're gonna get backlash on anything you do, because everybody's super hypersensitive about a lot of things right now. So have a plan. Make sure that if you create the plan and your messaging is going to be a certain way, that you stand firm on that messaging. If you post something that's super inclusive, regardless of what demographic you're looking for, you're working with, and then you get backlash, and then you remove the content that you had posted because of the backlash, you're sending a message that the bully won. Don't let bullies win, because we don't get anywhere when we let that happen. So make sure that you have a plan, you stick with it. Also know that we're all learning, we're all evolving. In my community, we have so many letters in our alphabet, and it keeps expanding. I can't even keep up. So, if you're confused and you don't know how to say something, most of the time we're probably confused too, and we're still trying to keep up with the new terms and making sure we're understanding things. Even, as a white person, fully understanding, do I use the word BIPOC? Do I use the word black? Do I use the word brown? Like, just ask, learn, but make sure you do your research first before trying to reach out and learn directly from the community member that might be asked that question all the time. But I'm here as an open book, and I'm sure others of my colleagues are too.
I'd like to really touch on that. We have an actual example of something that happened, what Rachel was mentioning. So we had a partnership with our statewide DMO to promote 2 of our major events, and we could choose which ones. Our DMO had our statewide DMO had over 1 million followers on Facebook, and this is where the events were going to be promoted. So to bring awareness to these really awesome events that were happening, we brought Ipsy Pride and Juneteenth to the table that, these were the 2 events that we wanted to promote. And so our statewide DMO added those events to the Facebook calendar to over 1 million followers. And as you may guess or not, within the hour, there were hundreds of really hateful and harmful comments. And at the time, I was the person managing the social media side of things. So it was me reading those comments, and it really kind of blended that line of personal and professional, like taking care of yourself and well-being. So we had to recenter our messaging and retarget in a place that really invited the people that we wanted to attend these events and that would have an impact, versus just putting it out there and hoping that the most awareness brings everybody. But it was not what we expected. We did take down the events, and we communicated that with our 2 major events that we were promoting. Ipsy Pride was really happy and thankful we were connecting with them and letting them know. And Juneteenth was happy as well that we were talking to them, but did feel like we let the bully win. And so that was a learning opportunity for me, that intention does not always equal impact. And it's definitely something that I'm mindful of in the way that I move, and as we create content, as we create our strategy, really being mindful of those examples to help us lead.
Thank you. That's pretty much our time. We have a lot more conversation that we could be having, a lot more questions. But we're pretty much out of time today. It's a conversation that will continue to go on today, tomorrow, and let's just say years down the road. So please continue to have that conversation. Reach out to any of us here on stage or any of your other colleagues if you want to move forward.
And Larry, I want to thank you for your willingness as an agency to have this conversation, because I think it's really important. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much.